Tonight, our talk is about exploring our ongoing internal dialogues about money. We're going to reflect on your thoughts about money and wealth. And again, where does some of these thoughts come from? Again, we worry about money, but where do all those worries start from? How does it affect our lives? How does it affect our relationships? So tonight we will cover how we can adjust and release these negative thoughts and patterns that are holding us back. Our relationship with money, whether we think we can or we think we can't. Henry was a quote by Henry Ford. Robin's quote is, change is never fast. We have to really live with the fact that a lot of things that we want to do don't always happen instantaneously. And because it doesn't happen instantaneously, we sometimes feel that things are not working for us. Sometimes we have to give ourselves time in order for those things to manifest. And this has to do with also with our money. Our, our relationship to money is shaped by a number of things. One of the things it's shaped by is our emotions and the people in our circle. Another topic or reason why we're impacted by money is what we have seen all our lives in our immediate families, friends, in our neighborhoods and places of worship. Also, we're affected by the media that we consume. So again, willpower alone is not enough to build wealth. We have to be in harmony with our thoughts and our feelings. And again, most of the impact that we have about money is our cultural conditioning, basically from our work environment, from the schools, from the media. And right now, it's not just the media, it's now social media. They all reinforce the status quo about who we believe to be rich and beautiful. That's what's in front of us every day. So one of the things I want to stress to us all is that when we're thinking, there actually are two minds. We actually have two minds, and you cannot think both negative and positive thoughts at the same time. One or the other is going to dominate. And so in this case, what I wanted to show you is that this picture represents the struggle that we experience between what we say we want to do and what we actually feel about what it is we want to do. So in this case, we're talking about the fact that we have a subconscious mind, that's our thinking mind, and we have the subconscious mind, which is our feeling mind. And not and quite often they are both not going in the same direction. They actually could be pushing against each other. So the conscious mind and the unconscious desires sometimes work against each other, pushing in opposite directions, as we can see. Your goals and desires may not be congruent with your words and your actions. So a result for many of us is that we're talking about things that we want to do, but we're not getting things accomplished. So we might say, well, I'm going to establish a goal to go and save money and stop impulsive shopping. But then in the back of your mind, you're saying, well, who am I kidding? I'll never save enough money. Why bother? So that's the subconscious mind that's telling you, you're not going to get that accomplished. So why are you bothering? Why are you saying that? So we have to be mindful of the two voices that are always ongoing in our heads, what we tell ourselves and what the subconscious mind comes up and says, well, what the heck were you thinking, lady? I'm trying to make sure I can get to the next slide. So basically, what we need to do in order to make sure that we're moving forward to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, we need to change the external conditions. And in order to change those external conditions, you must first change your internal subconscious thoughts. And a lot of times we're not even aware of what they are, but that's the first place we have to start. This means we need to identify what are the limiting beliefs. What are the limiting beliefs that we have about money or about ourselves? We have to now train our conscious mind to think thoughts of success, happiness, health, and prosperity. But at the same time, we want to think that in that direction, we have to understand, well, what is it that has been holding me back? What has been the unconscious thoughts that I have been thinking? Once you identify what the unconscious thoughts are or the limiting beliefs, then you can then focus on those and make a shift in those. And when you make the shift, then basically you'll see that your will or the ability to accomplish stuff will be easier because both your conscious ideal and your subconscious desires are working to go into the same direction. So that's really what this picture is all about, is how we often are at times working against ourselves. But when we finally are getting tuned and in harmony with how we're thinking and feeling, we can actually move forward a lot faster. This picture is about the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. And really what I wanted to share with many of you is that, as I mentioned before, there's two thinking minds. There's a conscious mind. The conscious mind is the one that we use every day. It's our logical thinking mind. It's about our judgments. It's how we calculate. It's about the willpower. That's the conscious thinking mind. The conscious thinking mind is our waking mind. And even though it's our conscious thinking logical mind, it only controls about 2 to 3% of our thoughts. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, is nonverbal, it's not logical, and it's the feeling mind. It communicates in images, feelings, dreams, and it controls 98% of how we think and how we act. And the way that that gets developed and that whole subconscious mind, because you can see in the subconscious mind, we're storing a lot of feelings are being stored there. How does that happen? When does that happen? And how does that happen? Well, the first 7 years of our life is when we are programmed. These programs are stored in the subconscious. This is when we are walking around and we're experiencing as a young child, maybe there's sibling rivalry, maybe there's a feeling of not being loved by one or both parents. Maybe there's some kind of emotional, physical, or sexual abuse that's occurring. There could be some kind of fear or a fear of abandonment or death of a loved one. Or it could be if the kid's in school, if you're in school, you're going to school, and all of a sudden you're being taunted, by schoolmates. Any of these events are then stored into the subconscious mind of a young person. And once these things are stored in the mind, what happens is we build what we call the core belief about ourselves. The core belief is our operating system, it's the control program. So whatever our core belief is that we have about who we are, that is what dictates how we're going to react to different circumstances. So those core beliefs are formed by any kind of emotional issues like trauma, like fear or hurt or anger. They're stored in the subconscious mind, but more important, it's the core belief now that is your operating system. It's subconsciously operating day in 24/7. You don't even, it's undercover. You don't even know that that's what's happening. Because what happens is through the core belief, we make assumptions about situations, we make assumptions about people, and then we act on those assumptions based on what our core belief is. So part of what we're trying to understand or uncover here is this exercise tonight is for you. You don't have to give me your core belief right now, but it's for you to sit and think about what it is that's part of your core belief. And I'm going to give you an example of how that works, because a core belief can also operate as an impetus to change. In my situation, I'm going to share with you what Robin's core belief was. I grew up in the South, the Jim Crow South. We were tenant farmers. And as tenant farmers, our responsibility was to work the land, provide hands or workers to work the lands. And what happened in the 50s, there was a significant amount of migration of Blacks moving from the South to the North. And as a result, in our family, we were doing the same thing that everybody else was doing. My mother left, my sisters, my cousins left, my aunts and uncles, they all left the farm and then they moved to the north. So as a result of them leaving, we were kicked off of the land because we couldn't provide enough land. So that was a feeling of, I felt really abandoned. I felt scared. It's like, we have no place to live. What am I going to do? So this fear about not having a secure place to live and feeling I was being abandoned was really an current or subconscious core feeling that I had. And as a result of that, though, when I started living in New York, and one of the things I did early on is, because my mother was a saver, because again, I watched what people do around me. My mother was always the provider for the whole family, but she was also a saver. And what I decided I was going to do is I was going to save my money, and as soon as I could, I was going to buy me a house. And back in 1984, I purchased my first, well, actually, it was my second property building in Brooklyn. But I purchased it not because it was, oh, this is a great investment property. I purchased it because I was going to ensure that no matter what happened, I would have a place to live. And that was because of an underlying core belief or a core feeling of fear that I never wanted to be put in a position where I wouldn't have a place to stay. So a lot of things that we do and a lot of decisions that we make have to do with what our core beliefs are. And sometimes those core beliefs can drive us to be successful, but at the same time, a lot of times they hold us back. So what I want you guys to do as an exercise after tonight is to think about, well, what are some of the core beliefs that you have about yourself? I mean, I have clients, because I'm a therapist, and I have clients where when I asked them to do that exercise, I said, well, I want you to identify what your core belief is. And I've had many folks come to me, as mostly the females too, is there's a core belief that they're not good enough, that I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, nobody loves me. These are some of the things that people, after a while, they start to understand this is their operating system and why they're having problems with relationships and people around them because of these beliefs that they have about themselves. So one of the things you want to do if you're struggling with trying to accomplish something, you might want to sit down and start to think about, well, what is my real core belief about who I am? Because whoever you think you are is going to dictate what you manifest in your world. Now, with that in mind and understanding how our core beliefs uh, impact us, here is what happens once we decide we're going to sit there and come up with, because these are roadmaps. And what I'm trying to show to you is here are some of the roadblocks that we typically will come up against when we're trying to achieve our goals. So here's you're pretty happy out there. You got a new goal. You've written down your dreams. You said, well, I went to a workshop and they told me I need to write out what I want. And hey, I'm ready to go. And, I'm going to buy my new house. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do all this stuff. And man, I got my list of things that I'm going to do. And I'm going to share all this stuff I'm going to accomplish with all of my family and my friends. And so now you're starting down the road to try to accomplish your goal. However, as you go down this road, the very first obstacle you're going to run into is relatives. You can see that sometimes your relatives have the biggest stick and are the biggest opponents of you changing who you are. And if it's not the relative with the big stick, it's sometimes your best friends. Well, your best friend is now thinking, well, hey, you're going to go off and do something. And guess what? We're not going to be friends anymore. You're going to leave me behind. So then sometimes there's envy and jealousy that comes up. So you're faced along this road of trying to accomplish your dream. You're going to come across, some pessimists. You're going to come across the society telling you, well, who do you think you are? You can't really accomplish that. But as you keep going, let's say you pass by the relatives, you get past the friends, and you keep moving along. However, sometimes as we get closer and closer to those goals, sometimes those subconscious ideals that we have held below the surface will also come up. And again, this is where guilt comes through. Here's where fear will this, here's fear, me saying, well, will I succeed? Is this going to is this going to really, really happen? Am I thinking too big? Am I trying to do too much? So sometimes if it's not the relatives or the friends or society stopping you, again, it could be some of your core beliefs about fear and your guilt that blocks you from achieving your goals. So these are the things that we have to be very mindful of, that even when you write down your goals and you're ready to go move forward, you can get easily triggered by either your anger, your fear, your core beliefs, or you can get triggered by family and friends who do not want you to succeed. So those are things that you have to be mindful of. And because of that, this is why the next thing is very important, is you have to have some strategies for shifting the mindset and for shifting the environment. And the very first strategy one has to use in order to get past some of these obstacles is we need to change our environment. We need to find positive people or groups to work with. We need to look for mentors or accountability partners to help support you to get yourself focused. Again, your environment sometimes is what's causing you to be held back. So that's one of the first things you want to look into. And when I say change your environment and find positive people, I'm talking about the fact that you guys have shown up tonight to listen to this talk, because now you're either a member of JTW or a member of Disruptor DAO, or you've worked with members in this community. These are your folks that are helping you to change your thinking and to help you move forward and to help support you. So basically, these types of groups, like Disruptor DAO, is one of the ways that we can help to change the environment and the people around you. We're going to bring people who have similar minds and similar thinking. So that's important. That's why we're here. The second important thing is to change your internal program. You need to identify your internal dialogue. What is triggering you? What do you tell yourself? You can't change a thought or a belief if you haven't first identified it. So one of the things, that's the reason why I said one of your exercises after tonight is to sit down and identify, well, what is your internal dialogue? What are some of your beliefs? What are some of your limiting beliefs? If it's a belief that's keeping you moving forward and it's great, keep it. But if it's a limiting belief, you want to understand, well, what is it? And once you identify it, then you can then make some you can take some actions to try to shift that thinking. Because again, if something occurs frequently when you're trying to do something, you can say, okay, here I go again, thinking that I can't do it, that I'm not good enough. So there, I remember when I was here again, I'm talking about changing your internal program. Very early on, back in the 1980s, I went into technology. I learned how to program back in the 80s. My first work was with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York as a programmer. And I can tell you that when I went to work every day at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, that's down on Maiden Lane, sometimes the only Black person I saw was the one I saw in the mirror when I went into the bathroom. And you're sitting there saying, well, damn, what the hell am I doing here? Can I really do this? So you can sit there and you can really um, be triggered by your environment and by people and saying, well, can I really do this? Can I really succeed? So you need to start thinking about your internal program and identify what dialogues are you telling yourself. The third thing we have to do is change our practices, meaning we have to spend less time and less of our money on things that don't support your goals. Change what you read, change what you write, change what you study, change what you watch. I don't even turn TV on anymore because there's nothing but negative news coming on television. So why am I going to allow myself to be programmed and my time to be wasted on something that's negative? If you want to change your practices, sometimes you might want to consider journaling. Because again, the whole act of writing something out allows you to mentally start to focus on achieving that particular goal. So journal, do a vision board. I have a vision board. And I recall doing this vision board first, and maybe a year or two later, there was a picture I had on my vision board of me wearing this black and white hat. It was a beautiful summer hat. And believe it or not, somehow I found that hat. And I couldn't believe it was on my vision board, but I actually bought the hat. So there's those vision boards are very critical because, and the reason why the vision boards are important is because visioning, and as we talked about before in terms of subconscious, the subconscious does not talk in verbal. It's not a verbal communicator. It's all about images. It's all about uh, things that we see and feel. So a vision board helps to connect to the subconscious mind a lot quicker because that's how the subconscious mind functions. Listen to inspirational videos, meditative music, or healing sounds. Again, these are ways that you can change the practice and what you've been doing and what you've been spending your time is and what you've been focused on. Practice, like I said, practice visualization. Why? Because that's what the subconscious mind loves. It loves to imagine. Guess what? When you go to sleep at night, you're not sitting there, when you're dreaming, you're not dreaming in words going down the page. You're dreaming in pictures. You're seeing all kinds of pictures and visions and feelings. So your imagination is your most powerful tool to help you move forward and to get out of whatever constraints you put on yourself. Use your mind and your visualization and your imagination to really help yourself move forward. Can I get an amen there, guys, people?
Yes, yes, yes. And I know that we went a little over, folks. So if you could give us a little bit more of your time so we can complete the process. And I hope you could grant us 10 additional minutes.
Yeah, we went over because we got started a little bit like that. Again, practical aspects of financial wisdom, core financial principle. Although we're thinking about uh, our emotional responses and our finances, there are really some core financial things that you always have, principles. Budgeting. Now, budgeting doesn't mean just tracking what you're spending your money on. Budgeting is about identifying what you're going to actively spend your money on. You're going to decide and put into categories where your money is going. That's the budgeting. Budgeting is not just looking at how much you spent, but looking at where you're spending your money. So you pay attention to what your budget is, or you identify what your budget is. And your budget should help you think about what are the things that you need versus what are the things that you want. There's a difference between our needs and our wants. And you would say, I need to pay my rent. I need to pay my utilities. I need to save. So budgeting helps you identify where your money is going and how it's helping you. And of course, saving is very important. One of the things and one of the concerns I have about the Black and Brown communities is not that we don't have money. It's just that we are we have been programmed to be consumers. So we consume, we don't save, we go buy the latest, whatever gadget that's out there. Or, in fact, I tell people, well, if you like Nike shoes, why not buy the Nike stock? If you like Apple phones, why not buy the Apple phones? We sit and we are the consumers of things that don't add value. So we have to start to learn how to save and be responsible with spending our money and moving our money into assets, into things that increase in value. Balancing and our budgeting apps are really nice new technology things that help us a great deal to streamline the financial task. We need to leverage in terms of balancing technology. This is where we're using technology to help us move forward or to help us not get stuck. Leveraging bank accounts that help, bank account features that help you to track and categorize your spending. There is an app I just found out about that's called the waveapps.com that allows you to connect to your checking account, and it will then sit there and it will pull out all your expenditures and categorize them for you so that you can see where your money is going. You can use, one of the things you want to do is check your credit card charges for recurring charges. I've found that I've sat there and I looked at my credit card and I'm looking at expenditures. I'm saying, well, where does this expense come from? I don't recall, signing up for this. And what happens is you have a number of uh, advertisers that'll say, oh, we'll just sign up for this or free that. And it's free for 7 days, or it's free for 10 days or 30 days. And thereafter that, you forget about it. And now you're being charged monthly for subscriptions. So you have to now also monitor where your money is going. And one of the things you want to do is be very diligent about checking your charges and your bank account. One of the things you want to do to help with your finances and help you move forward is to pay, the philosophy is to pay yourself first. And that's about savings and investment. So if you're still working out there, I retired back in 2017. So I work for myself part-time. But if you're still working and you have a 401k, take advantage of the employer match. That's free money that you're getting. Take advantage, put that money, whatever the maximum is that you can put into 401 to get that maximum match, do that. Transfer funds to high yield savings accounts or investment platforms. Schwab now, Robinhood, Coinbase, Gemini. These are all platforms that are investment platforms. Either you're investing in stocks, or in the case of Robinhood, you could invest in stocks and crypto. And Coinbase and Gemini are crypto types of exchanges. But you can now transfer money directly from your checking account into these particular accounts that allow for you to invest your money without even thinking about it. You can just put it on autopilot that I'm going to invest or move money over every week, every 10 days, whatever. And that's what we call a periodic investment. We call that dollar cost averaging, is putting a certain amount of money aside in order for you to purchase assets. And you can purchase them at different prices at given times. You also want to establish an emergency savings fund. You want to have what we call, some dry powder available for when it is something that you want to do. You can't spend all your money. You have to sometimes, because emergencies do come up. All of a sudden your roof is leaking and you got to go take care of that, or something breaks in your house. So you have to have emergency funds or savings put aside. But the goal is to at least identify where your money is going. And again, if you're identifying where your money is going, you identify you're putting some money aside into your emergency fund. You can also consider robo-advisors for automated portfolio managements of things like that. These are just some that I found recently. Vanguard Digital or Advisor, Betterment Wealth Fund. These are robo-advisors that you can just set up based on how you answer the questions in terms of what your risk tolerance. It will actually sit there and go and do the investments for you. And instead of paying for a financial advisor and their high fee, you can use a robo-advisor to actually do the investment for you. So this is where technology is now coming into play, where it helps you to manage and to move forward and take the fear out of, well, what do I do? Well, how do I do it? There are these tools now that we can use to help us, engage ourselves and to invest in the most efficient way. And of course, debt management is very important. There are different types of strategies for paying back debt. There's the snowball or avalanche effect. In some cases, you might have multiple credit cards. You might decide, well, what I want to do is I'm going to, pay the smallest one off first, get that out the way, and then I'm going to go to the next one. So there are different methods and ways in which you can repay, different strategies for managing your debt. And the best thing to do is not to get in too much debt to start with. But that's, one of my push. So harness the power of technology wisely now. And I'm saying that because, we want to use technology, but don't go too crazy. We want to focus on financial wellness that helps, with our emotional, mental well-being. So sometimes there's we call it techno optimism versus technophobia. So we got to strike a balance between embracing technology's benefits and maintaining control over our financial decisions. We don't want to become overly reliant on automated tools or to succumb to financial FOMO. So some of these, some of these things every day you're getting about, oh, I got to check the chart. I got to check this. I got to check. So you get overwhelmed and you don't do anything because you got all of these things coming into your email saying, check on this, look at this, look at that. And so sometimes you can actually get too overwhelmed by the tools being sent to you and marketing to you and telling you what you need to do. Sometimes you may have to step back and take a little bit of breath. The other thing that's very, very important nowadays with technology is you need to be mindful of prioritizing your security. You have to be mindful that every day we're hearing by cybersecurity risks, with financial apps and platforms. So be very careful with your passwords, enable two-factor authentication. I mean, I hate it, but I love it because it's protecting me. But every time I need to sign on to my checking account, I got to go and, get the code that was just sent to my telephone. So sometimes it's a little bit cumbersome, but it's there to help protect you, that you don't sit there and open up your bank account and all of a sudden all your money is gone. But again, you want to avoid obsessing over tracking everything, and not get financially, overwhelmed. So personalize your financial journey. What works for you might not work for other people. So experiment with different tools and strategies to find what best suits you. Stay informed because technology is changing rapidly every day. So something that was good and worked yesterday may not work, tomorrow. So you want to be, informed, but you don't want to be overly consumed with some of this technology that's out there. So my final thought is, I'm going to share this with you, is that the current moment right now is your point of power. The current moment, with the direction of your thoughts and your energy, has the power to impact both your past and your future at the same time. For instance, 30 minutes ago, you guys all clicked onto this link for this presentation. So 30 minutes has gone by, and believe it or not, that 30 minutes is now part of your past. So right now, at this point in time, is where your current power exists. Whatever you become aware of at this current moment, whatever your thoughts are, whatever your feelings are now being harnessed to impact your future. So based on the law of attraction, what we focus on, what our thoughts focus on, will attract those events and situations into our lives. So as your future starts to shift and change based on your new thoughts, you start to write a new future, and you also are rewriting a past. So every moment we experience becomes part of our past, and hopefully those moments are going to be good ones going forward. So use this moment, this point of power, to direct your thoughts, to direct your energy to what you want to accomplish, and it will then manifest and create your new future as well as rewrite your past.